I was awarded the UN Architect Award by the American Institute of Architects at a national level. That is like winning an Oscar in my career.
What does it take emotionally to move to a new country and rebuild your career from zero?
I asked myself, what is the worst that can happen? I might not get any clients. We might struggle financially, and then I have to just go out and get another job.
How do you feel those experiences shape your leadership today?
What happened in this process was that I realized the type of leader that I wanted to be, identifying the potential and the best skills that everyone has so they can thrive in whatever they're doing.
What advice would you give to someone, immigrant, professional, woman, mother, who's feeling stuck right now?
If I say something to somebody is, don't let other people's limitations limit you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Vince Perri, your certified exit planning advisor, business broker, and serial entrepreneur. And this is the podcast where I interview really not just business owners, but in my opinion, Gloria, only interesting business owners. And Gloria, I'm so excited to have you on. Gloria Kloter is on with us. You are the owner, the founder, the CEO of Glow Architects. You have been in this country for over 22 plus years. Gloria, I tell people all of the time, when you hear an accent from somebody and you see that someone's from another country, you need to actually have some major respect for that person, because coming from immigrant parents, having an immigrant wife, come from another country and really start from scratch, it's an amazing thing that you have been able to do that here. And I honestly respect you tremendously for that. Thank you for being on my show. And congratulations on all of your accomplishments that we're going to go over. Gloria, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Vince.
Gloria,
I want to clarify just for clarity. I haven't been here 22 years. I have experience in architecture over 22 years, but I've been here since 2015.
No, listen to this. This might take a while. Gloria, you are an architect licensing advisor for the state of Florida. You're a director of programs for the Immigrant Architects Coalition. You are the founder of the Foreign Architects Online Community. You are the founder of the Women in Architecture Committee, and you are the author of The Architecture of Motherhood. That's quite the accomplishment list.
Thank you. Yeah, that's correct.
Gloria, before we get really going and I start asking questions and really get deep and into depth about your professional life, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself that I haven't mentioned?
Just to clarify, I am originally from the Dominican Republic. And as I said, I came here in 2015. And I'm an architect. I used to have a business back there, and now I have a business here, as you mentioned, Glow Architects. And I'm a mom of 3 beautiful babies. I'm married with Jeremy Kloter, which has been in your show before. We love you, Jeremy. A little shout out. And I think that's it.
So, so you're a natural born entrepreneur. So you had your own business in the Dominican Republic as well.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Well, what was your first entrepreneurial experience like?
I feel that let me clarify this. I don't think that I knew that I had the spirit to be an entrepreneur. In the DR, I kind of grew up with this mentality of you just want a job and be stable and the security of the every, paycheck every month. But it was kind of like if God just wanted me to start this whole adventure, because I had a job and it was pretty good. I was pretty comfortable with it. I worked for them for like about 8 years. I learned so much. It was an architecture firm that had also engineers in house, and I loved the job. I loved the people I was working with, and then I got this opportunity. It was 2010 when I got this opportunity of designing the first Steve Madden, the shoes designer store. It was the first one that was going to the DR. And someone hired me to only do renders and only build the store, because it was like an interior project. You can do that in the DR, certain levels of projects. You can be kind of like the general contractor, what will be the general contractor here. So I said yes, and then they said, can you like make the render so we can see, because the plans were sent actually from Venezuela, from an architect in Venezuela. And I took the plans, did the renders, and then when they saw the renders, like the images of how the store was going to look like afterwards, they were like, this is not what we thought it was going to be. It really looked kind of like a restaurant, like it was very like kind of dark colors and this or that. And I'm like, well, that's the design that you have. And they were like, oh my gosh, we have like 2 weeks to start working, like building, or they're going to be behind. And they were going to be penalized for every day they were late after the big opening of the mall. So it was very important that we were on time. Like we had a timeline that was like very, stingy. And they said, can you give us another proposal of design? And it's like, we have 2 weeks to start like constructing this whole thing. Like, what are you talking about? And but I did it. I tried to bring the project to my job, and my boss said, no, this is not what we do. It was not what they did. But if you want to do it on your own time. So I remember I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I, put together a design for them. And when I presented to them, they loved it. They approved it, and we move on with it. And as I was getting kind of permits and all that, we were doing kind of fast track. So we were like building, getting permits and approvals of everything. So I learned a lot from that project. The main thing with that project was it it was highlighted in a local, really big magazine of architecture and construction called Architecto. They contacted me. I didn't know it was even an option to do that, like get the project featured there. And they contacted me and they made an article about it. And from there, I got a lot of other retail stores and projects. Like, it was like a word of mouth thing because I wasn't doing any promotion or marketing or anything. But it got to a point where I was making more money on my own than what I was making on my job. And I needed the time to just focus on that. So kind of happened, like I just kept saying yes. And at some point I was just trying to figure out how to do the whole business thing. I was lucky so because my mom is a CPA back in the DR. So she helped me a lot with some of the, financial stuff and things that I didn't understand as a business owner that nobody teach you in school for real. And and then just making mistakes and learning from it, that was part of the whole deal. So that's how I ended up having a business back there.
Just make more money than you spend.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
main, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Ultimately, there's a lot of intricacies, but at the end of the day, you have to make more money than you spend. What's the
Yeah.
difference? I have been to the Dominican Republic several times. Usually, always up for a vacation. What's the difference between running a business in Dominican Republic and running a business in the U.S.?
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry if that's a I'm sorry if that's a stupid question, but
It's not stupid. There's so many differences. I feel that I feel that there's more organization, at least when I was there, on things that you have to follow and things that you have to be careful. Like I didn't even have insurance when I was back there. I wasn't afraid of being sued for anything. If
mm,
any time I ever had any small dispute with a client or anything, like they know that it's really hard to get a lawsuit going on. It's just not, at least again when I was there, you know, 10, 12 years ago, it wasn't a thing. So like you have to figure out, you have to talk to people and just kind of get into some agreement and get things solved, because you don't want to get into the whole nastiness of going legal with somebody, right? So I feel that here, that's one of the major things that I feel is I have to have everything from the beginning. I had to have everything in order, have insurance and all the documents. And just, I feel that there was a lot of things that I needed to have in order and organized from the start that when I was in the DR, I just kind of like figure out as I went. There's obviously a difference of like me being from there, and I kind of just knew it was my country, So here it's like you have that fear of like, if I do anything wrong, I don't want to get in trouble, da da da. But I think the laws here are just like more stringent, and you have to be very careful because yeah, you can get sued pretty easily. So there's a lot of liability with any profession, just in general. I mean, you need a license even to make nails here. So
so, and
yeah.
then in the DR, Dominican Republic, for those that don't know, you finished school, you got your degree, you started a business. Like you did You did all of the things that you needed to do in order to become a professional architect, correct?
Yeah, and I do have a license back there that is regulated by an architectural board. So I do have a license that is, it's not like you get out of school and say, I'm an architect, which happens in some countries. You actually have to go through a full process. Like, I finished school in 2009 and I got my license actually in 2011. So that kind of give you a time frame of, like, it took me about 2 years to do all that process to get my license. Here it's similar. The process is similar in certain ways. We don't get the exams that we have to do here, but we do have to report hours of experience and all that. And yeah, I think it was quite interesting getting the business going on here. Just like a lot to learn in the process, and having to do it with English being my second language. It was another challenge to kind of like overcome, just in general.
And I'm assuming, of course, that when you came from Dominican Republic to the US, everything was seamless and everything was easy, and you just started your architectural career and everything just flowed from one thing to the next, right? Of course, right? Smooth and seamless, right?
That's what I thought. I did not make enough research when I decided with my husband that we were getting married and we were gonna live in the States instead of in the DR, because of the obvious reasons, like opportunities are better here and whatnot. Um, I thought, I have my business in the DR. It's okay, because he was transitioning from being a Marine to being in real estate. And I said, baby, it's okay. I got you. I have a business. I'm just gonna start my business in Florida, and you do your scene, and I will support you until, like, get your feet on the ground and running. And then I hit a wall. Like, that's not what happened. Like, everything here was so confusing. The major scene that I faced was that nobody around me knew anything on the process of how to get my license and how to practice architecture. Um, and like, my family and people, friends that were around me had nothing to do with my career. So I was pretty alone, pretty confused. Most of the information on how to do it is out there. It's all out there. I promise you that. And I know it now for a fact, not just because I went through it, but because I'm part of I serve some of the organizations that has to do with the licensing now. But as an immigrant person, as someone who has English as second language, all of that information sometimes means nothing to us, because it doesn't translate the same way. Like, we read things and we don't know what we're reading. There's like a lot of technical words that we don't know what it means. I'm going to give you a quick example so you understand what I mean. When I started my process to get the license, I made a lot of mistakes because someone told me that this was the path I needed to take, and I spent a lot of money and time on that. And then at some point, someone said, "Well, you have your license in the DR, which is regulated by a board of architecture in the DR. You should apply to this other path, which is shorter. You save time. There's like a bunch of advantages of it." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what am I supposed to do?" And they said, "You just put your license, that you have a license, in the system of the NCARB organization." And I didn't know how to do it, because the one tab to put your license didn't say license, it says registrations. So,
Hmm.
like, for someone like me who has English as second language and didn't know that registration here means having a license, all I understood they were saying is that I wanted to register for something, like register for a seminar or a class, like, not a license. So all of my process for, like, almost over a year, I was doing the wrong path, because the one tab said registration instead of license. They changed it recently, because I've talked about it so much, and I've been, not just me, but a lot of people have been just on top of them, saying this is confusing for people who are immigrants. So they changed it now to say license, but it took us years to get that change done. So my point is, when you're reading some of the information of, like, what you need to do, it can be very obvious to you, maybe, if you're from here, born and raised here, English is first language. But for someone like me, it might not translate, you know?
What? So that leads me to my next question. What does it take emotionally to rebuild, to move to a new country and rebuild your career from zero?
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you, there's so much. That is a packed question. I'm gonna say something. thankfully, and because of my situation particularly, was very specific on how we did things, I never felt homesick. Never. But that is not the case for most people. Uh, Most of the time, people, especially the first year or two, struggle a lot. I did struggle a lot. But Jeremy and I initially, we just didn't have enough money because, again, I couldn't work. He was transitioning careers. So we were living out of our savings. And we decided to just live with his parents for a while. So even so, we were like newly married. Um, and we everyone just wants their own space, and we're both adults. So I was living on my own when I was in the DR. He was like traveling overseas for years. Like going back to living with his parents felt kind of like some steps back. But again, everything happens for a reason. I think God did that mostly for me, because the fact that I was always surrounded by people, like his parents are lovely, the sweetest people ever. His mom and dad, I just love them. Mom, dad, I love you if you're watching this. um and they were just always so welcoming and so sweet. And I feel that the fact that I always had them around helped me not feeling alone,
Mm,
confused, homesick. um I actually developed like a really strong relationship with them because of that few months that we were living with them, which really strengthened my relationship with them long term, because like when we start having kids and stuff, they help us a lot. And there's always having just like a great relationship. That is not the case for most people. Like a lot of people move to a new country and they leave all of their family behind, which I did. Like my mom and dad and siblings are all back in the Dominican Republic still. But I kind of found this new family in Jeremy's family, and they were just so welcoming that I just never felt. I swear to God, I never felt homesick. But I think it takes a lot of emotional intelligence, I will say, to be prepared for the changes. There's like a lot of cultural changes. Sometimes people will even make fun of how you pronounce things or how your English is broken or this or that, and like you have to kind of learn how to navigate those scenarios to kind of just improve as you go, and help people to understand how to deal with certain differences that you may have with them.
the Clotters sound like an American, like family Latinos almost.
No, they're very very American. They're very white. Yeah, they're very white, very American. But they're just like an American dream to me. I think how they said like the American dream is kind of like you have the house and the job and the car and
I
whatever it
got it.
is. Yeah, I feel that my American dream was finding this second family in them. I
That's
really
awesome.
mean that. Yeah, it's just it's very special, my relationship with Jeremy's family. So
So important that you get along with your significant other's family. I
yeah,
mean, because it's
yeah.
like they're not going anywhere. They're gonna be there.
No,
So it's good that
exactly.
you get along with them so well. That's awesome. Um, that must have been difficult getting away from your family, especially you being Hispanic, and I know how close you probably are with your family. So yeah, kudos to you. That's fantastic. So how long did it take you from when you finally made the transition? You're probably going through a lot of paperwork for
Oh
visas
yeah.
and so on and so forth. I'm slightly familiar with the process. How long did it take you before you sort of went back to school? You got I think you had to get a degree again, correct? You had to start over.
No, you
Okay.
they evaluate your education, and then you report hours of experience that can be
Ah,
partially done international. The ones that I have from the DR, they actually recognize part of those, but there's a part of the total is 3,740 hours total you have to report. So halfway you can report internationally, but halfway has to be under a licensed architect in the United States. So you have to report those hours, and then you take 6 exams. Those exams are all in English. They're very hard. A lot of people that were born and raised here, that went to school here, and all that, all of their experience of work is here. They struggle with it. So just imagine
yeah.
what it means for an immigrant with English as second language doing it. Um, but you don't have to go back to school necessarily. There's like, if the you remember I mentioned there was like a first path that I was trying. with that path, you have to go back to school because they evaluate your education in a way that uh, comes back with like some deficiencies of credits, and then you have to go back to school and like fulfill those. But because I had the license as a licensed architect in the Dominican Republic,
Mm.
they didn't. That was part of the advantage of me doing that. Like I didn't have to go back to school. They just like check with my board of architecture that my license was valid and some questions that they go over, and then they got like my transcript from my university to make sure that I finished school and all that. But it's like the process is way easier and faster. So thankfully, I didn't have to go through that part. But there's a lot of people that because they don't have the license in their home country, they do have to go they call it ESA evaluation, EESA, and then they have to go back to school. But I didn't have to do that. I'm just clarifying.
Okay, so after you get your license and you're officially able to work, did you go work for somebody or did you start your own company?
So I had to get a job in 2016 to report those hours that I mentioned that are like mandatory under licensed architect in the United States. So my first job actually was with a home builder, but in Florida you can do residential projects and like even um, a structural engineer can sign those plans. It doesn't have to be an architect. So because I was in a company that was doing residential projects, it wasn't the right fit for me. So I could like report those hours that I needed to. So I ended up getting a job in an architectural firm that was doing commercial projects. And I
Mm.
worked for them 4 years from 2016 until 2020. I was happy with them. They were really good people, learned a lot. They really helped me. One of the major differences in things that you have to learn as an architect is building codes. Like the way the building codes work in the United States in general, not just Florida, is like so unique.
So, so Gloria, that does. Sorry to interrupt you because that's where I wanted to head to. What are some of the major differences that you see, like in construction, in building, in architecture, from Dominican Republic to the U.S.? There has to be some major differences.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's start by the fact that the United States is the only country that does the whole, you know, inches and feet versus meters,
I
So
didn't
you
even
have
think
to,
about that.
dude, you
Oh,
have to
that must
like
be terrible. Oh my God.
everybody else, everybody
The
else
whole world.
uses the whole word. But here you have to learn this system. And it was really hard for me. And now I think I already think that way. Anytime anyone says, oh, this is whatever meters, square meters, I'm like, now I have to like recalculate in my head because I can't not
Right.
even, imagine it anymore. But you have to learn that. And then building codes is a huge thing. I mean, there's I don't think there's any other country that has building codes the way we have it here.
Right.
I could be wrong on that, but like let me tell you, they are so stringent and there's so much to go over, so in depth. We do have building codes in the DR. They're just not so intense. Let's say it that way. But the good thing that happened with me was that the one job that I got, that I worked for them 4 years, they specialize in hospitals, like healthcare architecture, and a lot of assisted living facilities too. So like if you get to do some healthcare, I feel like sometimes you get to do a lot of other stuff because like it's so stringent. The building codes are so stringent. Like you're dealing with a design that is for people that don't know the building, that may need assistance if something happens, if there's a fire or something. So like it's very, very stringent. And I feel that that gave me a lot of opportunity to learn like the words out front. And then like going down to like regular commercial and residential, it feels like just a little bit like smoother. So some of the other differences that I found is the fact that in the DR, as I told you, I could build some of the smaller projects, and here I will never do that. Like there's so much liability if you stayed in your lane. If you're an architect, you do the architectural part, and you always want the structural to do the structural and the mechanical guy to do the mechanical. I was doing plans of like plumbing and mechanical and electrical back in the DR because we were able to do it for the smaller projects, obviously, nothing like major um, commercial, but you get to do some of those stuff there. And I feel here, even if there's certain states that allow certain things that you can do as an architect, sometimes you just don't want to do it because of the liability. I think the liability is one of the other things that I feel that are so different. You're always afraid that someone can just sue you for whatever reason. So like you're always like on your toes. Um, but yeah, I will say those are the major ones. The metric versus empirical, and then like you have the building codes, and then liability. Those three
Well,
main things.
this might be another stupid question, Gloria. Are you licensed to work nationwide on anything nationwide or no?
No, no. So that was one of the things that I thought, and most people think when they come to the United States, that if you get a license in whatever place, then you can practice in the whole country. Like there's like a national license. That's not how it works. You know, because you're American, that every state here works almost like a different separate country inside.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own laws, their
Mm-hmm.
own regulations. So if you're licensed in one state, that's the only state that you can practice.
Okay.
You can't go and promote yourself as a licensed architect in New York and offer services if you don't have a license in New York. That's illegal, actually. It's penalized by law. So, no, I am only licensed in Florida and Georgia right now, are the two states that I have a license.
I mean, it makes sense. The country's so big, and there's just different weather patterns, and obviously, there's going to be the codes in Miami is not going to be the same as the codes in Omaha, or yeah. So Florida's going to be different. So I mean, that makes perfect sense. So you're working there for 4 years now, and what is it? What did it? What made you say, hey, you know what? It's time to go on my own and get this thing. Was it a similar story to you having opportunities on the side and you were like, well, I might as well pursue this, or was it something completely different?
It was completely different. So when I came to the States, I had the mentality that I was just going to transfer that business. But then, reality check, that's not what happened. And then I got the job. And I feel that I got pretty comfortable with it. It was comfortable. I had a very decent salary, benefits, health insurance, all that, stability. And the company was great. So everything was fine. In 2019, I got my license, and then I started traveling with Jeremy and doing some of the things that we were holding on because I was getting the exams and all that. And then we decided to start having kids. And in 2019, I got pregnant with my first child, which is my daughter, Nova. And let me tell you, that changed everything because the problem was COVID hit in 2020. Right before I had her, everything was closing. And one of the things that I didn't know, that I was informed as I got pregnant, was that as soon as you get pregnant, you want to register your child in some daycare scene because the waiting list is always pretty long and you might not be able to get your child on it. So as soon as you get pregnant, you want to do that, which again was a news for me. And we tried to do that, but then COVID hits, everything closed, the world is just going crazy, and we didn't have a place to get our child um, to be able to go back to work when everything started opening. Because I had her on June 2020, and then right after, around those months that I'm like in maternity leave, da da da, some of the things started opening, airports started opening, people start going back to work in person, and I don't have a daycare for my baby. I didn't have a daycare for my baby. So I tried to negotiate with them to go back either still fully remotely or partially remotely because we have a situation now. We have a baby. And they said no. There was a lot of things happening in the company where they needed me to go back in person full time. Also, the person who was my boss at the time needed to travel right after I was supposed to come back from my maternity leave, and I was the only licensed architect in the office at the time. In
Ah.
this one office, they have several around Florida and other states, but in the Tampa office, it was him and me, and they said no. And that's when Jeremy, my husband, said, well, how about you just quit and you start your company? Because now we have to think of in our daughter. That will give you some flexibility on time and how you handle your schedule. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure it out. I went to a conference in 2019 before I got pregnant, where there was a keynote speaker talking about taking risks and when you're trying to really do something really big and scary. And she said, most of the time, what I do is that I ask myself, what is the worst that can happen? And I answer that question like very honestly, like the worst scenario that you feel that it will be the worst to you. What is it? And then if you can figure that out, maybe it's not that bad. So I remember when I was in the process of should I quit my job and start the business, the worst scenario that I imagined at the time was, well, I might not get any clients. I might not get any clients. It might not work. We might struggle financially. And then I have to just go out and get another job, which I have to do anyways because, this one job, even though I loved them and I was with them for 4 years, it wasn't working anymore for the type of flexibility I needed for my family. My priorities change. Um, so I said, you know what? But having to get another job is not that big of a deal. It's not the end of the world. It's not so humiliating. Like, yeah, maybe it didn't work and I have just accepted that I'm not gonna be an entrepreneur in the States, and that's fine. I've been working for a company for 4 years and I was happy with them. So I said, let's do it. And then we started Glow Architects in 2020, and I've never looked back. We've been strong and steady since, and I'm just so thankful that we took the risk for it because it
Did
has
you
been worth it.
did you not need any additional licenses to have a company, an architecture company?
No, just my architecture license, and then do all the
Gotcha.
process that you will do for any other LLC. That's what we did, and yeah.
Now, I have in my notes here is that you don't invest in traditional marketing, that
No,
you are service based.
absolutely no marketing, zero.
How in the world did you replace marketing with service based brand building?
So one of the things that I started doing since I got the license, I actually before that was that I started building my personal brand as an architect and as someone who was trying to put the word out there that I am someone you want to come to if you are especially an immigrant architect that needs a license in the States. Because of that, I was invited to several conferences, still am conferences and podcasts, and I was interviewed for magazines and journals and all that. And it's like my name started being out there on what I was doing for immigrant architects. Nothing to do with Glow Architects or me as offering services for architecture, right? But I think it is still made an impact because like just recently we got a project for the church because I was speaking, I think it was in Miami, and one of the attendant is a niece of a pastor that is starting a church around the area. And she said, oh, you should call Gloria, because in her presentation that was something about architecture of motherhood, nothing to do with me saying, hey, I want to design your buildings and help you build it. um no, I was talking about something else, but I always mention what I do and what we specialize and whatnot. And then this guy contacted us and said, hey, my niece was one of your presentations, and we want you to design our church. It has been a lot of words of mouth. We Jeremy, it's a strategy some days. You mentioned when you and I were talking before we started the podcast itself, the episode, you mentioned that you were very thankful because he connected you with many people. Jeremy is so good at just socializing and connecting the dots and getting people to know each other. And because he's everywhere, he's better than me at going to places and saying, "Oh yeah, my wife is an architect." Like you knew about me before I met you because he was the one talking about what I do. So I think he, as a business developer, is brilliant. And I feel that he helped us promote just by word of mouth what we're doing. And from those connections and people that we have met in, friendly meetings, it's not always like necessarily like networking and work related stuff, but like we work with friends. We work with friends and family and people that we met in this type of places and events, and then those clients become repeat clients, and those clients become a source of referrals because then they start sending us friends and people who are developers like them. uh, I've also have learned a lot to try to get in contact with developers and GCs and engineers, because sometimes people are trying to go to like the final client, and sometimes that's not That's not how you get the business. Sometimes those clients go directly to the GC. So if you have a good relationship with some GCs, they will go, well, you're too early in the process. Just go to Gloria and call me after. So that has happened a lot to us too. That's kind of like, I feel like it has been the model for a while, and I don't want to change it because we are full of work right now. We are 4 people in my company, and it's a small business. So I take as much as I can handle, and then after that, I start saying no and referring those projects to other people.
Leadership, leadership, Gloria. Obviously, you are a born leader, obviously, and what you've been able to do with your personal brand, helping other architects, helping other immigrant architects, women, mothers. Obviously, you're all in on really helping others become successful. I don't know if you know John Maxwell. He's got 5 levels of leadership. Level 1 is position. Level 2 is permission. Level 3 is production. And then level 4, before level 5, is people development. And it's something that obviously you're very passionate about. How do you feel how do you feel your experience coming from Dominican Republic, coming here, having to rebuild, having to almost basically start over? How do you feel those experiences shape your leadership today?
Oh my gosh, it's tremendously because when I was back in the DR, I feel that I was very new and fresh and green, and it was all about myself and what I needed to do to grow as an individual. And then I came to the States and I struggled so much to get my license and so much to do anything and everything related to architecture. Because again, there was like a lot of lack of knowledge, like nobody knew anything. And I took it upon myself to help people to not have to go through some of the mistakes that I made, waste the amount of time and money that I wasted because of I didn't know. And sometimes I get people that starting in the process and they say like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. And I kind of joke and say, I know, I wish I had a Gloria when I was like where you are right now. But everything happens for a reason. I think my bad experiences shaped me to be on this journey where I am right now. With that being said, so it's funny that you mentioned that book from
John Maxwell?
John Maxwell. Yes, thank you. Because I actually did even presentations about it. I was so immersed on that book and another one called 212 Leadership because I experienced a lot of bad leadership um, just in general throughout the years and in my life. And there was one point in my life that I was very, very frustrated about how some of the leadership around me were behaving and just kind of not letting me grow and get the best potential that I could offer. And I started reading about it because I said, well, there's something that I should be able to do to help them improve, to help me improve. So I started reading about it, and I even started giving presentations about this whole thing. But what happened in this process was that I learned the type of leader that I wanted to be. I realized that I wanted to be a servant leader, someone who was giving to others and identifying the potential and the best skills that everyone has so they can thrive in whatever they're doing. And also the part of learning how to delegate and let others figure things out as they go instead of like micromanaging, and kind of being over the top with certain controls that sometimes we can do. um, I think there's a combination between those experiences and the books that I read and what I was experiencing directly myself. Uh, and then when I became a mother, I always said, even in my book and some of the presentations that I do about it, is there's so much that you learn as a parent about leadership and how interrelated it is with how we do things in architecture and as business owner with what you do as a parent too, that it's crazy. It's like what you do in one, you can like repeat the cycle in the others to make it to be successful. And it really, really applies in theory. So
How do you balance motherhood and leadership without losing yourself?
It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's not easy. It's a constant reminder. Sometimes I have had to go back and actually reread my own book, let me tell you, to remind myself some of the things that because I wrote the book when I had my first daughter and I was pregnant with my second. And then from the second, I had a third. And the dynamic changes a lot from one kid to having two, and from having two, having three. But I feel like if you repeat that those same principles, it really helps you to stay center. I think one of the simple things that I can mention is you have to remember that even so you become uh, the caregiver and the person who has to be completely selflessless in this process, because everything is now about the baby and what's best for the baby first, and then you come second. You're still your own person, the same dreams, the same ambitions, the same goals that you had before. It's just like priority change, but it doesn't mean that you have to lose yourself completely in the things that you want. And that was one of the reasons why I waited so long to start having kids, because I was so afraid how it's going to affect my career. And I'm very ambitious. I love doing architecture. I love all the leadership stuff that I've been doing. I love going out and speaking and all, networking with others and whatnot. But you know, my kids come first. So I've learned to, one of the things that I do is like daily small steps on a daily basis, like waking up early and going to sleep. No, let me step back. You need to make sure that you go to sleep on time. So
Early.
you get, yes. So because your kids are like the worst alarm ever.
Yeah.
They will wake up at the time they wake up no matter what. So you want to be able to wake up before them. So you have time for yourself. You get a shower, you brush your teeth, you get your hair done as a woman, you get makeup, all that kind of stuff. You guys get like 5 minutes. We need like about half an hour to an hour, depending on the woman. So that whatever is the time that you need to wake up before that and get that time for you to feel like yourself, to feel like, look at me right now, I have my hair done, I have makeup. But it's because I do that. Then you have to like organize. One of the things that I like to do a lot in the mornings is every time I read my to-do list and I reorganize the priorities, because like maybe something was like really urgent yesterday, but like maybe today there's something else that is even more urgent that I need to put on the top. So I reorganize that, and then I get as much as I can done. And I've learned to give myself grace on the things that I don't get done that day. They can move to the next day. It's very rare that something is that urgent that can wait one more day. As long as you communicate and you're open and honest about what's going on, people most of the time understand and you can work around. Um, and then there's a part of, I think there's one thing that is very important in this, in the balancing, is the expectations that you put on yourself sometimes are way over the top, unrealistic. I think that's one of the things that most people struggle with, is like you have to put a realistic expectation of what it means to you being successful as a parent. So if I'm and then you kind of like work around that, right? So like, for example, if you feel that for you to feel that you're a good parent, you have to be with your kid about 8 to 10 hours a day. And if you don't spend that amount of time with them, then you don't feel like you're being a good parent. Then that's something that you need to work on, how you're going to do that. And what are the things that you need to sacrifice to make it work? To me, I don't feel that way. I think that if I spend the time in the morning with them and then they go to school and then they come back from school and then I put my phone away and then I spend those hours from when they come to school until I put them down to sleep, and I spend quality time with them, and then the weekends are all with them, I feel that I'm still being a good mother. And then I'm still taking time for myself to be a professional and to help others and to do all the other stuff as an individual and as the woman I was before I was a mother. So I think I set up expectations for myself that are realistic and that still make me be in peace with myself of what I'm doing and how I'm spending the time.
Well, I think you also set a good example for your children that you are a hard worker and you're a badass and doing what you have to do to provide for the family.
Yeah. And let me clarify this. There's nothing wrong or bad or less on anybody that decides, you know what, I have kids and I just want to be a stay-at-home and I'm going to dedicate the next 5 years to just stay at home, because this is also a sacrifice. Just being at
Sure.
home all day with the kids is a big sacrifice. So
I'd
it
rather
depends.
work please, I'd rather
Yeah,
work all day.
yeah, yeah. And it depends on the mentality of everyone. What makes you happy, what makes you thrive. Like there's people that really want that and enjoy it and good for them. I'm just not one of them. I need to be doing both. And I needed to find a way to make it work with both. And that's part of the reason. One of the things that we did was that we got help from with the kids, and I will work from home, especially the first year. I will work from home, having someone helping me from 9 to 4 p.m. So I got to work from 9 to 4. It was my working time, but I was at home. If anything will happen, even so, we have an office. We have a physical office that I can go and work in. The first year of every one of our kids, I work basically from home. I still will like meet people if I have to, and I will go to the office if I needed to. But I work from home because, again, it was me deciding what was important. It was me working with my schedule and prioritizing. Because I also too. This is another part that is funny. It wasn't only that I was working and I was staying at home with the kid. I was also breastfeeding. Which, like, if you have any experience about breastfeeding, the
I have a
baby is
lot, me a
attached
lot
to you.
personally. Right.
The baby's attached to you. So like finding that balance between every oh my gosh, I remember I had to breastfeed my baby every like 30 minutes to an hour or something. Like you have to be doing that and stopping. Well, that's at the very beginning. But my point is like you have to make it work. You have to find your balance and then kind of go from there. And things get better as they grow. It's not always so intense
Did you
to
ever
say
see the
that way.
Did you ever see the Serena Williams documentary that was on HBO where she went back to start playing tennis right after having her child?
No, no. Tell me about it.
It's an amazing documentary. I strongly recommend it. I think it's called Serena. It's like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. It's a little while ago, but it was right after she had her daughter Olympia, and she was trying to make a comeback because she wanted to win one more major, and they went behind the scenes on the whole thing. Well, she almost died. She had a C-section. She almost died. Then she recovered from that, and then she was trying to make a comeback. She was in the locker room before going to play a professional tennis match, and she's pumping, having to
Oh,
pump, then go play a professional tennis. Like it was
people
pretty
have no
crazy.
idea.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people
yeah.
have no idea the sacrifices mothers do.
All right, let's make a little shift here for the last 10 minutes or so. I always like to bring it up because that's the topic of discussion that everybody's discussing right now, and that's AI. How should architects think about AI? And I'll even get more specific. First, I would like first part of the question, tell me how you're using AI with architecture. Like what do you see happening with that? And then I want to know how should architects think about AI without being scared?
Yeah. I think this is funny. How I use it. Let me start with that. How I use it. We don't use it as much as we should, to be honest, because I like to have control over the images that we present to the clients. So we one of the part of our brand and what we do is that we offer renders from the very beginning in most of our projects. It's just part of the package. So we were already offering it, but the reason why we like to keep it as we do it is because I have a lot of control. Like if everything is fine and they said, but I don't like this one window, I'm able to kind of like just change that without sacrificing everything else. Sometimes AI can be like, you're like, I just want to change the window and it
Starts
just change
over again.
everything, yeah.
Yeah.
So I need the control because at the end of the day, we're showing what's going to be built, and most of our renders are done with the plans that we're actually working on. Um, but I do like it for sometimes to have like a quick idea on concept. If you kind of just need something visual to say, like it might look like this, and it's good to have like some quick conversation, like a tool. But again, we don't use it as much as maybe other people are using it right now. I do believe that people shouldn't be afraid or so against it because yeah, there's scenes that are kind of scary sometimes when you see like how advanced some of the video stuff are now, and like making the whole person look like these famous people and whatnot. um how that's gonna get regulated at some point. I'm pretty sure we're gonna figure out. But um what I feel is that this almost feels like, this might sound stupid, but like, do you know like how people probably felt back in the industrial revolution when like all of
Right.
these machines were taking over people's jobs, because like instead of like having 100 people doing whatever it was, like sewing or whatever, like now you have these machines doing it, and like you can get it in like way less time, faster, financially more affordable for some companies than like having the employees and all that comes with it.
Right.
It's like you have to go with the opportunity, because yeah, a lot of people then lost their jobs, but like then he created these new opportunities where like people learn how to use the machines or how to create the machines and how to da da da. I feel that this is like similar in a way. It's like we're changing, and there's like so much that is changing with AI, and I feel like we either jump in the wagon and get into it and learn how to use it, learn how to make it part of our tools, or we're just gonna get left behind. And some people are gonna figure it out, and then we're gonna be the ones that didn't, you know? So
Right.
that's how I see it. Is like you have to just go with what's happening, because it's not going anywhere. It is here, it's growing, and it's just part of who we are right now. We like it or not, we everyone has a very divided opinion about it, but I just feel that the way architects, to complete your question, is the way architects I think should use it. And I just want to say, this is not the statement of any of the organizations I work with. This is a personal opinion on how AI should be handled by architects. I think we should use it as a tool. The same way at some point we had a pencil and we draw a drawing with the pencil. The pencil was always the tool. We were always the
Mm,
brain using the pencil to come with this idea to put it together. Then from the pencil, we started using programs like Revit and AutoCAD and whatever. The pencil became this digital pencil that was these programs that made it, and a lot of people were against that. A lot of people, I remember when I was studying architecture, didn't like it that we were doing some of the plans digitally, because real architects will just draw it with the pencil. But it's just a tool. You're going from the pencil to the computer with the programs. I feel that now it's like there's something coming up with AI that is still a tool. We are the ones controlling it. We are the ones who should learn how to use that tool to the best of our advantage, and offer use it as a way that can help us to improve architecture, to improve the way people live and use our spaces, because there's a lot of information and data that normally you wouldn't have access to, that this AI is now kind of like it's right in front of you. So that's how I see it, like just kind of being smart about it and use it to improve the experience versus being against it completely.
all right. I always have to ask one AI question. Before we finish, Gloria, tell me about Glow. I'd like to know just a little bit about your company, Glow Architects. Sort of what it's all about and how you see it in the future.
Well, right now, as I told you, we started it in 2020. We are a small company. As I said, we're only 4 employees, or team members, better said, in the company. And I love every one of my team members. Um, I I started doing a lot of commercial and residential at the beginning. I haven't been doing residential for a while because we are so busy with commercial projects, but mainly we've been doing a lot of religious buildings, churches, around
Mm.
the Tampa Bay area community. How I got into that, I'm known now as the church lady, because I got one church project once. I didn't know anything about it. I had no experience with religious buildings whatsoever. Not when I was in the DR, not when I was working for somebody in the DR, or when I was on my own business, not when I came to the States and I was working for that company. Like I had no experience whatsoever. But the GC was a friend of ours, and we trusted him, and we were really excited for the project, so we said yes, and we did a good job. And then they kept sending us, you know, religious buildings after that. So mainly I'm known now for doing churches, which I love those projects. It's great community building. It's great helping. It's almost like a ministry thing that we're doing. And I don't know if you knew, like Jeremy and I are Christians and believers, so it's really great to
That's
work
awesome.
with like-minded people. And yeah, where I see the company, I think we're pretty steady right now with the type of projects that we're working and the sizes. So we have a couple of things in the pipeline. I think we're gonna be good. Yeah, and Florida is doing really well in the construction side of things. So.
You're I was gonna say, like having your company in Tampa in particularly with how much Tampa has grown over the last 5 to 10 years has to be great too.
Oh, it has been great. And as I told you, like sometimes I have had people contacting us that they find us on Google or like referrals from other people that I just cannot take because I'm full. And I've been able to send those
Wow.
projects to other architects around me because it has been good. I cannot complain. I cannot complain.
That's awesome. So I honestly I could keep going because I've got so much cool things that I love to talk about. Like you have a quote, you have a saying, "Rise by lifting others." I think that's fantastic. That's something that you say, right?
Yeah, yeah,
In your
definitely.
servant leadership.
You know, my gosh, I forgot who's the person who says there's this saying about uh, individual individuals score points, but team win games. Have you heard that one?
No, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I forgot who said it. Who's the owner of that phrase? But it's kind of like that mentality of like you kind of together and with a group of people with community you can accomplish so much more than
Yeah.
again like what I was doing in the DR was like just me, and here it feels that I've grown so much because of what I'm doing for other people. That's the reality of things. I'll tell you one thing. It's not just like we rise by lifting others. Is Have you ever heard, this is another phrase that I like, um people don't care how much you know until
Mm,
they know how much you
that's
care.
fair. I love
So like
that.
you have to start giving and doing things for people for them actually understanding like, hey, I think Gloria is like for real. So that's one of the things that I'd really like to apply just in general, like
I
just
make
helping
it
others.
I make it a point. Anytime I go to a networking event, anytime I have a one-on-one with somebody, anytime I'm meeting another professional, like my only goal is to try to, at the very least, pass them a referral. Like
Mhm.
introduce them to somebody, connect them with somebody, connect them, whether it's a direct client or just another professional that I know, like make that connection. Like that's try to be as valuable as you can. And I have noticed that the universe works in mysterious ways. And whether it's that person giving you something or just you closing a lead later on that week or that month,
And you
it sort
know
of
it's
comes back
related
around.
even if it's not. You
Yeah.
just know it's related even if it's not. Yes.
Well, I love your story, Gloria. Obviously, you've gone through the trenches and you've managed to be very successful. The personal brand you've built is incredible. The fact that you've written a book is amazing. All the people that you're helping. I guess my last question, so that we could leave off on a real high note. What advice would you give to someone, immigrant, professional, whoever, woman, mother, who's feeling stuck right now?
When I came to the United States back in 2015, um, I was surrounded by people that were good and people that were not so good. And there was one person in particular that told me when I was in the process of like trying to understand what to do with my license and whatnot. And this person said, don't even try it. Why would you try? There's people that have gone to school here that have been trying to pass the exams, and it will take you 3 4 years to pass the exams. Like, why will you do that? Like, you can work without the license. Like, why? Like, your license is not valid, your education is not valid here. Just like, you know, and he was very discouraging. I remember I went back home crying, literally crying, because I was like so discouraged. Like, oh my gosh, I fell in love with this guy, but I love being an architect, and now, and I have my business, and now I'm not gonna do any of that. And then someone else, next day, I was talking about it, and she said, "F that. Like, what do you have to lose? Like, you for sure are gonna lose everything if you don't even try. What do you have to lose?" And I think if I say something to somebody is, I you have to work hard. You have to put the work out there and be disciplined and all that. Yes. But and surround yourself with like good people and mentors and all that kind of stuff, right? Like there's a process behind every successful story. Um, but if someone like me who came to the United States with a tourist visa, married with a guy who were both of us were starting, we were living out of savings, we were living in his parents' house for a while. Um, I got to the point where like I'm traveling around the country speaking and doing keynotes and going to conferences in architecture and going to podcasts like this and writing books. And one of the biggest accomplishments I actually reached this past year in 2025 was that I was awarded the UN Architect Award by the American Institute of Architects at a national level. That is like that is like winning an Oscar in my career. You don't understand how big that is. That is a national level award that many people apply for years after years and they don't get it. And somehow someone was telling me for 3 years, you need to apply to the young architect. And I'm like, what? No, I will never get that. And then I did it because my one friend kept like pushing me to do it. And I got it in the first try. My point is, if someone like me was able to accomplish that, many other people can accomplish whatever it is your definition of success. This is my advice. Don't let other people limitations become your own. Don't let other people limitations limit you, because most of those people are speaking from their own fears and from their own limitations. Those are not your limitations. Those are theirs. Let them be theirs and focus on yours. So that will be my advice. If you're feeling stuck, just know that you're your own person, that if you surround yourself with the right people and you do the work, you will be able to accomplish whatever you put your head to it. So that will be my advice. Don't give up.
Bravo, Gloria. Bravo. Thank you so much for your time. I promise the next time we do this, it will be in person, hopefully out of my own personal brand new studio, so I don't have to rely on other studios and other people. This is why you have to own shit, right? Because that's what happens. So I will definitely have you back on, and hopefully, like I said, it will be from my own studio. But Gloria, thank you so much for your time. I do really appreciate it. I admire and respect everything that you've accomplished. I wish you nothing but just so much more and more success for you, for your two beautiful children, and for
Three.
your and three. That's right.
Three.
I forgot, for your three beautiful children, and for your hunk of a husband that you've got there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
All right, Gloria. Thank you.